Really, I studied doppelgangers. I went and this idea of the shadow self, which comes up in many cultures, many mythologies. And it tends to be this sense that there is a darker self that we suppress, and we suppress it because we are afraid of what it means, and it holds our guilts and our evil, really.
People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own souls. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This was written by Carl Jung in Psychology and Alchemy, Jung's collected works. Jungian psychology focuses heavily on the idea of the shadow, that is, the unknown or unconscious dark side of the personality, and this concept serves as a vital piece of the foundation for Jordan Peele's sophomore effort, Us. Us is ambitious filmmaking exemplified, and even though not all of it worked for me, its strengths far outweighed its weaknesses. Peele's willingness to explore challenging and uncomfortable subject matter is admirable enough on its own, but his wholly original approach to filmmaking as a writer-director really sets him apart, and Us proves that beyond the shadow of a doubt. Aesthetically, Peele tapped into something that has unfortunately been underused and if not misrepresented in contemporary Hollywood, and that's the endless well of cultural treasures in the Black community. An example of this would be the use of I Got Five on It, which has been used in pop culture before, but never like this, nothing even close. Peele picked up on the eeriness of the chord progression early on in his own life, comparing it to the music he associated with Freddy Krueger as a scared kid, enabling him to use that internalized memory to help sculpt one of the more memorable horror scores in years. The diverse cultural experiences of the entire Black diaspora are full of these little nuggets on which mythologies can be built and with which stories can be enhanced. So Peele getting the opportunity to do this on a mainstream stage is simply refreshing, and hopefully it'll open doors for more artists to do the same. Us is at its best when Peele finds clever and innovative ways to visually represent the ideas at the film's core. The duality motif is present on a micro and a macro level. I mean, one of the central conflicts, at least early on, is the family of doppelgangers, whose horror is mined completely from a disconnect and a complete lack of understanding. But the same is true for smaller details. For instance, a pair of scissors, just an everyday item with a practical application, ironically being used as a symmetrical murder weapon. References to Michael Jackson also show up in the form of a t-shirt early on in the film, and again in the attire of the tethered antagonist, the single glove and the deep red jumpsuit sort of matching the wardrobe used in the Thriller video. And the duality of his persona fits perfectly. Not only did Michael Jackson literally have a dark and a light version of himself, but on a more figurative level, the same is true. And these little visual moments of refraction and duality are everywhere in the film, representing the Jungian psychological shadow idea that again serves as the foundation here. Just really clever and purposeful filmmaking. There are more messages at the core of Us, such as American isolationism, perhaps xenophobia, the film's title is at least a double entendre, repressed trauma and self-sabotage, but a full exploration of these ideas would require a spoiler analysis, and I want you to go into this as freshly as possible, so I'll keep everything vague on this video. But let's talk performances. Everyone is pretty great, including the younger actors, which was a refreshing surprise. Winston Duke was charismatic and about as funny as he could have been without becoming annoying, but the star of the show was undoubtedly the incomparable and beautiful Lupita Nyong'o. Listen, seriously. Going into this film, I knew she was elite and a total powerhouse, but her performance still gave me chills and left my jaw on the floor. I know it's early in the year and this is a genre film, but she should probably win everything. Even if you don't think this film is for you, watch it for her performance alone. It's amazing, and she should definitely lead in more movies. My issues with Us are mostly to do with the story on its face, and the reason those issues aren't a huge deal for me is because the film comes together thematically and metaphorically, which was clearly Peele's aim here. It's similar to Alice Garland's approach to his 2018 underseen gem of sci-fi horror, Annihilation. That is a film that barely holds up logically in a literal sense, but on a thematic level, it's all there, and it's a movie that got better to me over time, and I suspect the same thing will happen with Us. I'll probably still do a rundown of some specific plot points that didn't quite work for me over on my Letterboxd or perhaps on my Twitter, so just check the description if you're interested. But what I will mention is the fact that some things were a bit over-explained for my taste. As someone who absolutely loves narrative ambiguity, especially when people as talented as Peele trust the audience to deal with it, I was kind of turned off by the explainy bits. But overall, Us was damn good, and it's absolutely a film that I cannot wait to see again and discuss further for years to come. 7 out of 10. Please go see this in theaters.
I got